or 4:30, and I'll call the meeting to order. And our first order of business is, we do have a quorum, so we will continue. And is there any comments or changes we would like to make to the agenda for tonight?
Could I just ask that Jeff goes with the adult services report right at the beginning? He has to get back to the branch to cover the
Desk
desk.
is calling. Siren like
Certainly.
calling.
Any other comments or?
Well, I just have a question about the next two meetings, but maybe we can take that offline unless we need to have it documented that we're going to do a hybrid.
We can do a hybrid, yes.
Okay.
Yep,
So maybe at the end, we can just clarify how that's going to work.
okay.
Would that come, that wouldn't be with the agenda now, it would be with new business? I don't know where that would fall in the,
New business?
Probably under new business.
okay.
May I make a motion?
I have a motion to adopt the agenda, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I'm
The
already
agenda
gonna-
is accepted.
If I may ask, who would move the agenda? Thank you. Sorry,
Jan,
Next is the approval of the minutes for the November 8th meeting. I'll give you time to review it, and if you have any questions or changes, please mention them, bring them up.
we're very complete.
Are they
I
ever?
would make a motion to approve the minutes from November.
I have a motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second.
We have, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. They are approved. Next was our public comment, introduction of visitors. And Jeff,
Yeah, may I? So, Jeff Olmsted. I'm an adult services librarian based in the Chaska Library. Been there since, this will mark year 17 in about 6 weeks, which,
Wow.
yowza. And I'm here on behalf of the adult services team, and I've just had the most fun 3 years since Jody and Heidi offered me the opportunity to transition from kind of a youth services, teen services based focus to working more with adult services. And then kind of right away in that process, the team chair position opened up, and just felt like a great opportunity to kind of try to do something like that. I've kind of steered clear of a lot of those types of activities over the course of my career. It was just a really great chance to kind of come in and be a part of a team, a really high functioning team, and just be a part of some really fun programming initiatives that we've done over the last 3 years. You know, it's complicated by the pandemic, but it was also just a really inspiring time to sort of see how people would react to kind of that challenge, how we sort of the whole improvise, adapt, overcome model. But it was kind of fun just to see over the course of these 3 years kind of how we started out just scrambling to get any kind of programming online to hosting authors online, starting to host things like the wonderful Duke, Morgan, and Jody and the What's Cooking in Your Kitchen program, you know, all the way to this year in November where we featured a world-class author, Nick Hornby, who's behind some of the most popular screenplays of the last 20 years, novels of the last 30 years. You know, our system had the cachet to kind of reach out to the club book organization from St. Paul, the Friends of the St. Paul Library, who are kind of the real folks that do a lot of the reaching out to authors and authors' agents around the world. And it just says a lot about our system that they listened to our request. You know, in particular, Susan Bernstein kind of had this idea because about a year ago she saw that this author was going to have a book that kind of tied the work of Charles Dickens along with Paisley Park and Carver County's own Prince. And it's just a fascinating book. You know, Susan kind of had that idea to just kind of pursue this a year ago. A lot of us were like, really? Should we really even try to go for an author this big? And I'm so glad we stuck with it, because lo and behold, November 19th, we hosted this incredible author, you know, live from his flat in London. Of course, we probably wouldn't have been able to get him to fly to the Eden Prairie Airport and go to the Chanhassen Wilder room, but he was available in his, you know, somewhat poorly lit flat in London. But it was just a really fun hour of kind of discussion with Andrea Swinson, who's a local Prince expert, works for radio stations, and is now actually, I think, officially employed by the estate. But, you know, just to have that conversation, kind of have it tied to the Carver County Library, just really says a lot about kind of the work Adult Services has done over the last few years. And so kind of none of this happens in a vacuum, and I'd say just all members of the team kind of have contributed in one way or the other, and that can really be seen kind of in the Winter Reads program. It's always fun to come here in January, because it's usually right at the beginning of our Winter Reads program, and even though it's officially a 2023 program, kind of all the work into that program probably began by April or May of last year. And literally, like, many hands kind of make it work, and that's just so encapsulated by this. You know, right from the back end, we have colleagues like Bridget Stewart, also Patricia Leck, you can't really deny her, but the Beanstack end, just we have this new program. It's not really new. We've had it for years now, but we're finally getting adults to adopt it and use it to record all the books that they've been reading for the Winter's Reading program. We can use that to track kind of giving away incentives, entering people in for a chance to win prizes. You know, another facet of this Winter Reads program involves the work of reaching out to each and every friends group in the library system to see if they're willing to participate, reaching out to the foundation to see if they're willing to continue to offer Kindles, you know, and with money being so tight and in flux, it was still so great to be able to approach them and get some funding just to offer these incentives. It's unbelievable, kind of the people that come in hoping to win one of these Kindles. Like, I've submitted 15 reviews, I want the Kindle. I hope I can get it for you, Keith. No guarantees. You know, and so it's just really fun to be kind of a part of this group. You know, I think we talked about it today, but we have a program, you know, a really fun initiative called Spice It Up. I think I even brought an example of it. But again, like, this just doesn't happen on its own. This involves several colleagues, but, you know, we had this idea of, like, what can we do in the winter to kind of encourage people to do some library programming, maybe get a chance to just take a look at a lot of the new food traditions. I wouldn't even say new, but just Chaska's kind of a melting pot, just like a lot of the state of Minnesota is, and we tried to get recipes that reflected that, be it from Southeast Asia, be it from East Africa, be it ginger. So every other week, folks are going to get one of these great brochures. Inside it's going to have a spice pack specially designed to go with an accompanying recipe that's in the book. Cool. We also have really fun programming to support it, and just a really great work of a bibliography. And, like, the idea of one person doing this just sounds daunting as all get out, but that's the beauty kind of Adult Services team, is that many people pitched in. You had Bridget do all this work of ordering spices from a few different purveyors. You had Michelle and Susan reaching out to authors, I think Bridget as well. And it's not just reaching out to authors, but it's reaching out to the authors' agents, and then you kind of just learn this dance, the haggling between we submit a price, they kind of counter offer, we submit a price. We ask Jody, we ask Jessica, we ask Heidi, like, is this number kind of workable? Is this going to get kind of the right return on investment? You know, and you see things like this spice pack, and, like, I think that's how we sort of increase that value. And so in that program, along with this, we just have some really nationally world-renowned authors coming to visit, you know, and they're going to be actually here in person. But Raghavan Iyer, he's kind of a globally renowned expert, somehow came to Minnesota to go to college at Southwest Minnesota State 35 years ago, wasn't terrified by our winters, stayed here and just built this incredible life. But he's also just this evangelist of kind of spice and curry, and just the vast, you know, so many of us grew up with curry just being this yellow powder in a jar, and it's just so many more things, and this guy can kind of explain the story. And he's just quite a get. You know, here's a person we have at the Chanhassen Library, but he was also just featured on a nationally, you know, a public radio TV show, the Good Eats, I can't think of, the Splendid Table, you know, really renowned program that's been on air for, I think, 35 years. We have a new host in it. But it's just so cool to sort of see that overlap between somebody that's on the radio, is known nationally, coming here to the Chanhassen Library, kind of being willing to give us a little bit of a hometown discount, but still sort of making it work. You know, and on that same note, in another few weeks, we have this wonderful brother and sister duo who are behind this business called the Herbivorous Butcher, where they're just kind of trying to introduce plant-based alternatives to meat. You know, they're based here, and they've really attracted quite a local following. They have a restaurant of their own where they actually try to replicate Kentucky Fried Chicken, but doing it with plant-based. But you know, like the same day we sort of announced that we had this program, they happened to be on the front page of the New York Times Arts and Entertainment section with a huge article about, you know, somehow people making a plant-based diet appeal to people like me who, you know, I have a shrine to bacon at my house. I'm a carnivorous person, but it's so neat just to see kind of some of the challenges we face, to see this brother and sister duo do it, and sort of just do it with such joy in their heart, you know. And so it's just really, I'm proud to kind of be on a team that sees these opportunities and kind of ties them to program that we can have in the system. People that are willing to kind of do that. You know, I think some of the first quotes we get from folks like this are like, well, we'll show up to your library for $10,000. And we've kind of learned that that's just this opening salvo in a longer term journey. And so I'm just really proud for the team for sort of sticking with it. And then all of a sudden you just kind of look in the aggregate, and it's just quite a month of programming that we have here. You know, and I think, you know, one of our key goals that we sort of discussed over the last year is how can we incorporate more hybrid programming? How can we start to welcome authors, musicians back into our buildings, but still give people that can't make it to the library an opportunity to view it, either live or have it archived? And that's just a really exciting direction we're going in. You know, I think over the last year, it kind of started here in Victoria in April with, I think, just a poetry reading was kind of the first time we tried to just both have a program in person and then broadcast it out, you know, and it went well, baby steps, and we had a few more of those programs over the course of the summer. But now we look here in the Winter Reads program, and I think all 4 or 5 authors that we have lined up are going to be part of the, you know, not just in the Wilder Room at Chanhassen, but broadcast via our Facebook Live. You know, you'll be able to also access it via YouTube, via Instagram, and again, just the back work that kind of goes behind making this happen between folks like Susan Bernstein, who's just this incredibly calm presence that knows how to keep multiple plates spinning and balls in the air at the same time when it kind of comes to this stuff. Bob Lincoln and the tech team to sort of make it happen too. But here we are, we're just such in a much more confident place kind of having programming like this. I think it's still in its beginning stages, but that idea of kind of expanding the library beyond the 4 walls, beautiful walls of the Wilder Room, but to be able to get to people, you know, that are remote, you know, it's just so important, I think, for a library that wants to have programming like this in these months where we can have a weather stretch like we've had the last 3 weeks. Like, what would we have done had we had one of these programs without that remote possibility? So I just think it's just impressive, you know. And then one other aspect, one of my low-key favorite aspects of our programming initiatives over the last year is the simple passive programming like a puzzle. It's unbelievable the amount of goodwill that just a simple sheet of paper put out every week that happens to have a backside with answers to last week's puzzle. You know, we started this program in the summer, and it was just kind of fun to get feedback come in from branches throughout the system of people like, where's the new puzzle? Like people grabbing a couple to do it at home, some form of competition. A lot of it's anecdotal, but I just love the fact that we can do something like this alongside having some of these authors that we endeavored to get, you know, and just that gamut of program that kind of comes between something like this and an author like Nick Hornby on a November 19th morning. It's just kind of really something I think is great, you know. And then, you know, I think it's just important to have a team that has a good interaction with MELSA, the overall, we all know what MELSA is here, but just the metro area library system. And it's fun to be a Carver County Library representative there, because I think we come at it with a lot of enthusiasm, talking about the programs that we have. You know, and it's just we're developing a name for being a place that kind of punches above its weight when it comes to getting authors that sort of programming. So I just wanted to highlight that too, that I think it's paying off just in a larger metropolitan sense, you know. And another thing really kind of wanted to talk about tonight was just kind of partnerships. I think just being a public-facing department in the county, and one that's just kind of natural inclination of making connections, partnerships kind of should be our bread and butter going forth just with other parts of the county, and a big one for us this last few years. I feel like it probably started maybe in the summer of 2020 when we had some initial discussions with the folks at Career Force about what we could potentially do to get more of those hot spots out in the public. And just Shannon Quigley and the team there has just been so fun to work with over the last year. We tried a pilot project in Chanhassen in November and just had a nice little turnout. It was small, but it was a very engaged group of 4 or 5 people that got detailed resume instruction from one of the Career Force employment counselors. And their willingness to kind of expand beyond their space in Chaska to go to different communities in the county, I just think it's a real sign of kind of a healthy ecosystem. And to that end, another really great thing that they've done, I think it goes back to July, but they have been stationing employment counselors in both the Chaska and Waconia branches once a month, and just to, we've all heard just in libraries that we're just kind of considered maybe a less intimidating space if you have to go through the process of accessing resources or getting some help, and to just sort of break down those barriers and have a partner in Career Force that's willing to do it. It's just exciting to kind of reach out to Shannon over the weekend and just ask, is this something you're interested in continuing? I know the numbers, it's a lot of work and a lot of organization to make this work, but I think big picture, this is kind of the way, we want to be a place where people gather, a trusted place to do that. And I think, you have to put in the inefficient work of kind of developing these partnerships early, and then you'll kind of see that payoff down the road. And so that's just a really fun one to work with. Another, just a great initiative, kind of also just talks about kind of the flexibility within the team, but we just did a great series of programs with Micah as the point person, but from Parks and Recreation. Initially we had the idea of kind of reaching out to them to see if they had partner up on just some sort of programs featuring different county park resources, And our initial thought was, I think, late spring or summer, and kind of dialoguing with Micah. He's like, we'd love to work with you, but that's just kind of a time frame that's really tough for us, probably busiest time of the year. I think they've already got some stuff going on with youth services, but we do have a programming block he mentioned kind of in the fall, September, October. And so we quickly pivoted to that, and lo and behold, we have about 5 or 6 different park and recreation supported programs throughout the county. Outdoor cooking, Nordic walking, an activity near and dear to my heart, disc golf. Hopefully we can get some more courses in Carver County from that. But again, it's just that willingness to dialogue, that ability to kind of pivot and kind of make something out of it. And thankfully we just had an unbelievable stretch of weather in September and October that really kind of made it work. I think only one program was rained out, a fishing program, and that was pretty easy to reschedule, And then kind of one other aspect of just partnerships or kind of being in that county ecosystem. We had a really fun program in Chaska back in August. Author Adam Minter, he's kind of a globally renowned journalist. He has Minnesota ties, but he writes a lot of incredible work about just kind of the global trade of things we throw away, be it things we donate to a Goodwill or garbage, and just kind of the commodity that is garbage. That's kind of where his roots are in his family, an old scrap metal family from North Minneapolis. And it was just such a treat to be able to get him at the Chaska Library. One thing I thought as we were developing that program, it'd be a really good idea to reach out to the folks at Environmental Services to see if they might be willing to kind of display some of the promo material we have for it. So, just sent an email, pretty cold call email out to Greg Bowe, Representative Bowe there, and he was just so great, very quick reply, and immediately got the word out to the rest of his team and said we'd be happy to kind of display any of that promo material that you might have at the Environmental Center. So I just love the idea of people from Carver County there to drop off some of their garbage, see a program with a guy that's kind of talking about where it ultimately ends up and what we can do to either make that more efficient or just a less dirty process, because it's garbage, But just really, it was really a great evening, and it was one of those hybrid programs. And so it was great to both just host it in the Chaska Library, but also know that we were kind of going out to the rest of the county and beyond, just a really great evening.
It was excellent.
That's right, you were there. Yeah, it was a fun night.
My husband and I were talking so positively about it, and it was a good thing we were because we were sitting right next to his father. It was wonderful.
Nice. So yeah, it's been a fun team to be with, and I think just in terms of collaboration and participation, I just wanted to mention too, kind of one more thing before, I make my way back down the hill to Chaska. But, year 2 of the Charles Dalkey grant system, another just great opportunity to kind of the team kind of come together, and there's a lot of adult services team members kind of participating in it. In particular, Linnea Fanas, the new librarian at the, she's been here over a year, so she's not new, but she hit the ground running in terms of programming. And one of the Dalkey grants, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with it, but just excited to kind of see what we can do with kind of tabletop games and kind of making a program that's easy to bring people in. Again, just what can we get people to come into the buildings and have social interaction that's positive and kind of community based. So that's a great program coming up in the next year. Another really wonderful hire that we made, and my replacement as the team chair in adult services, Serena Ethier, has an incredible health literacy grant. Really excited to see where that goes, both just kind of bolstering the library's collection when it comes to material regarding health literacy, and just some really great programs. I'm excited to host a yoga program in Chaska over the course of the summer, mindfulness, meditation, just sort of that stuff that kind of expands what you might think of a traditional library programming. As much as I like to go into our 613s of our nonfiction section and pull out a book about yoga, I'd much rather have a live human being kind of check out the process of a yoga experience. And so it's just fun to sort of see that, and of course myself, year 2 of planting a seed, it's been kind of one of the great opportunities and challenges of my working career is kind of trying to come up with a seed library, getting these seeds out, the stories of these seeds out in people's hands. And I'm so excited to kind of had an opportunity to expand on what we did in Chaska. There was a lot of really fun stuff that happened last year. I think we circulated between 600 and 700 packets of heirloom seeds throughout the community of Chaska over the course of a couple months. Something like 75 different folks were able to check those out. And so I'm excited to see how we can kind of both expand and streamline that experience to kind of take it to branches throughout the county for year 2. And I think just kind of ending it on one of the more inspiring things, we were kind of talking with Bridget Stewart, kind of one of the other year 1 Dalkey grant recipients, and kind of her next chapter book club for developmentally and intellectually disabled adults that are looking to kind of transition once they beyond that service limit in your early 20s and kind of develop a book club that kind of welcomes them into the library space. And just sort of hear her kind of talking about that program and kind of how inspiring it was to be a part of it. You just sort of see that funding from the Dalkey grant really kind of achieving the goal in terms of expanding the library, bringing people in, and kind of offering something that we didn't necessarily offer before. And this is such a useful for me, just serving that population, the intellectually, developmentally disabled, is just kind of a near and dear to my heart activity in terms of it's been so consistently a part of my library career, is that we're a place where people that need a place to fit in feel welcome and have a place to fit in. So I think it's hard to not kind of get choked up as she was sort of describing that process, and so in sum, it's just been a really fun 3 years kind of working with this group, and not that it's ending. I'm excited to kind of see what Serena kind of direction she can kind of take the team in. But every single person, Laurel and Norwood, Bridget, Serena, Michelle, Susan Bernstein, myself, Jody, it's just been such a fun experience kind of getting to meet with these folks once a month and kind of talking about programming. For me, I don't know if it's the line cook in me, but so much of my life is like solving immediate problems, and so learning how to be a good programming librarian and kind of understanding the rhythms of calendars, and still have a lot of work to go on that, as Patrick can attest to, in terms of as I get these tasks licked for the upcoming grant season. But it's just been a real joy to be with people that really understand programming, that are willing to take chances and try something new with kind of an idea of the greater good, and I think it's just a fun team that has a mix of some folks that have kind of that institutional memory that have been around for a while, like myself or Susan or Laurel, people that have kind of worked their way up from library assistants or shelvers to now associate librarian or librarian positions, or kind of bringing in some really talented ringers from outside of the system like Linnea and Serena, just people that have a great understanding of programming, outreach, and customer service. So just want to say thanks to the team, especially thanks to Jody. It's just been a real joy sharing the Chaska building with her and being able to kind of dialogue about this stuff. And big thanks to Heidi. I don't think this happens without sort of the culture she really helped create over the last 10 years, a steady culture, one that sort of encourages kind of collaboration, seeing more of a big picture, kind of getting out of our individual branch silos and thinking more of kind of a county-wide perspective. And I really think that kind of starts from the top and goes down. But fun year, and really looking forward to kind of the work that awaits us in the year ahead. I'm happy to answer any questions or comments folks have about adult services or.
Can you pass that spice thing around?
Yeah. I always worry if people have like a scent sensitivity, so I didn't want to totally drop all of these.
You want some seeds, girl?
What's that?
Planting season?
Well, this is very spicy. Ginger.
You are a spicy one. Good job, Jeff.
Thank you.
We really appreciate that report.
Yeah.
I can see why you were enthused about it.
Anybody else want to
Just took your enthusiasm all by itself sells the program.
Should have been in sales, but it's easy to sell this team. Like I really like the
I'm
work
glad
that these
you're not in
folks are
sales. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's an opportunity to, I left restaurant work because I knew I had a service calling that was beyond rolling an incredible burrito or making a beautiful saute pan of pasta. That I like service in my community. I like just the different ranges and ages and diversity of folks that you kind of get to meet in a public library setting. So it's a gift, and it's just a gift to kind of talk about the work this team does.
Do you know how many people called into the Nick Hornby?
I meant to ask Susan that. I can get those numbers. I think it was a pretty good number, and it was a good engagement from folks around the globe, but I don't have a specific number.
Yeah, I was on that one.
We can find out.
Yeah, I'm curious. Would you say that was the highlight of the year, or?
I think just the amount of work that went into it, and that it was kind of a months-long process in terms of reaching out to David Katz and the Friends of the St. Paul Library to kind of, do you guys have flexibility in the amount of time? The more opportunity you give him to join, versus like we need you on November 8th at 5 p.m. versus anything you can give us between September 15th and Christmas morning will be ecstatic to get. So I think that one, just from a logistic perspective and kind of aiming big and hitting that target. Already Susan Bernstein's talking about like going after Bono, like the next big author get. I think David told us to cool out on that dream, but
Yeah.
just the fact that it takes months and kind of this negotiation between agents, the literary scene here, and us, it's just kind of fun to watch that come together. So I'd say that was a real
Well, he gets
highlight.
enough publicity from, he's been on David Letterman, or no, Stephen Colbert and all those.
Yeah.
guys, so. But yeah, I like the tie-in with Prince, it's really cool.
I've never made that connection until kind of spelled it out pretty well, just in terms of the prolific output and,
What is HHS?
Health and Human Services. That's kind of, that fun piece of that career, the employment counseling, is that they're also bringing in a child support specialist to kind of help people navigate those waters too. So I think it's just a cool two-pronged initiative to kind of have there. And that's so just thanks to kind of Shannon and her team and their willingness to kind of get out of their box in Chaska.
For career force, what kind of demographics do you see? Like they're mostly, are they minorities or are they more older people? Or?
You know, it's a real mix. You know, I think especially right now, I think, you know, just from the class that I saw, it was a lot of like folks returning to the job market happened to be kind of the focus of this one. People that were just kind of looking to tailor a resume if they'd been out of the work environment for a few months. You know, I think downtown Chaska, where they have their services, it's a little more broadened out. But, you know, I think they get a pretty good amount. They're trying, you know, like we all are, just to try to expand that service to the underserved communities. You know, I really kind of doing some work with Launch Ministry in Chaska. I know they've done some work with Career Force, and they have some fun projects lined up too, or His House in Chaska. So I think, you know, the idea is to kind of expand it out, but I don't have any kind of hard numbers on.
Not only do they just do resume training, but do they prep them for interviews?
Yeah, that is a very big part of it, to just sort of get people to understand just how much has changed in terms of just, you know, used to just have a trusty resume file on a Word USB drive that you'd plug in, and it's just so much more complicated than that now in terms of either the skill sets they're looking at or how you tailor your work experience. You know, that's just to deal with like a facet of where so much of that activity is automated, and learning to have the right aspects in your resume so it doesn't just get circular filed right away without even a real pair of human eyes looking at it. You know, I think it's a lot of those issues, but that's what's sort of fun, is that they're kind of embracing the whole experience versus just a really dry, get your margins and your spacing on your resume.
Right. Yeah. Nowadays, a lot of resumes just fed into a system, and they look for keywords, and then if you hit your keywords, then you get the call.
Yep. So it was kind of cool just to sit in a class where a person really was able to kind of explain that to a person who that experience is probably a pretty new facet of the job searching
It's
experience.
not just minorities. I think like older folks, it's harder to get. You know, I learned this whole new terminology that I'm like, what? Is there such a thing? It's called ageism. You heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. I haven't looking. I just got a new job, you know. But I was like, what? Ageism? Like, what is that? And it wasn't education for me. Just to
Yeah,
understand that.
I think people really welcome that chance just to get some help, and just realizing how much of that has changed, you know. And I think there's a lot of folks that want to, you know, for whatever reason, be it an economic pressure or just trying to find a new direction, new way to find meaning in your life, to try to do a change like that. You sort of see a few different aspects of it. So that one's exciting, and it's just fun to kind of dialogue with Shannon and have a pretty willing partner in terms of, you know, I think just the direction kind of they're getting there to really try to expand, you know, like kind of what we all are doing is just trying to reach out beyond our, you know, physical settings to.
So I came in a bit late, so I didn't hear the first part. And I'm curious, are you leaving or is someone taking over the role? And do you have
My tenure as the team chair wrapped up in December,
Okay.
and then Serena Ethier, a librarian out of Waconia who's been with us a little over a year, is taking over. And just based on today's meeting, I feel like we're in good hands in terms of herding the
curious,
cats.
do you have a roadmap for 2023? You know, knowing that, for example, the Chaska Town, the Chaska Part 30 is coming back in the fall. It's been down for almost a year and a half. They revamped the whole thing, but you know what's the big deal about that? They're putting the golf course, the Part 30, to be wheelchair accessible. You know that, where you just go up there and it lifts you up, just whacks the ball, and then you can cut to the next ball. It's, you know, for adults and for people, it would be interesting to do too.
And we had a good discussion today just on sort of what direction we kind of want to go in the next year, and just excited to kind of hear people talk more about how can we develop a better process for just kind of evaluating, kind of getting outcomes, really trying to just cast a bigger net in terms of our programming. Like, how can we reach more people? How can we how can we kind of find the right organizations to tap into to say, like, what can the library do for programming? You know, so it's just fun to kind of hear some of those discussions today and sort of feel the genesis of kind of a couple new directions we're going to go. I think just in terms of just recognizing how much this county is changing just by virtue of growth and the demographics, it's just, you know, the more you look at it now, the easier it will be as things are going to look so different in 2033 or down the road. So it felt good to sort of dialogue about some of those upcoming things and how can we be of service to it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, welcome.
Charles, it's all yours.
Oh, sorry I'm late. Like I said, I got a new job and I was trying to leave, but my boss was having a meeting and I'm like, so it's in Bloomington, so it's a shorter drive for me from home, but it's a longer drive. Well, it's a long drive for me to get here from Bloomington, so that's what it is. And I can appreciate, like, you know, the need for like career force and teaching people. It was an education for me also to prep my resume. I haven't looked for a job for over 9 years, but I wanted to do a change, and so I started doing that, and I realized, man, the world has changed. So, yeah, but yep, I was successful in landing a job, so a new job, which was interesting. Is there anything else? Did we all go over the minutes yet?
Yeah,
we
we're
have-
down on number 6.
Yeah, we're,
Well, actually, I think, are we on we have to jump back up to number 4, public
Uh,
input?
Well, is there?
yeah, number 4,
Yep.
we inserted Jeff.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me jump the line.
He has to go to work now.
Oh, sorry.
Go back and hold the fort down.
Yeah. Said Jennifer, thou art loosed. All right. So extra couple of these if folks need them.
Thank you.
And
All right.
please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any
Oh,
questions or
thank you. Thanks
Thoughts?
again.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks
for having me.
Bye-bye. Were there any public inputs
I haven't
for
received
that one?
any.
Okay. There are no action items.
We did add discussion of the hybrid meeting coming
Right.
up for February, March. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, that was added.
Okay. That's in part, section 7 then, or do we do it as 6 unfinished business?
6, unfinished.
So what are your thoughts on hybrid meetings?
Are we going to do this first? 6-1?
Is that 6-1?
Library premises?
There was an updated agenda that went out with the packet, so maybe
Library
you're looking at.
promises.
Yep, library promises, you got it.
I
Yep.
don't have anything for that.
So in the packet, I'll talk about this, Charles. In the packet, there's a document that looks like this. It's our promises to our patrons.
Oh, yes.
If you recall, over this past year, or a large part of the year, we worked on a new strategic plan for the next 5 years.
Right.
And as part of that, we worked with staff and developed a document, which is our promises. And this is something that, if you look at our website currently, you'll see something that says our core values.
Right.
Which we've been looking to over the last 5 years. And as we started to move forward, it made sense. And staff really felt that this would be a good direction to go in, to really tie in. Our staff is so dedicated to superior customer service and what drives that for us. And so I think all of these promises really speak to that, and what we want to, every day when we walk in the building, want to try to achieve, for our patrons, for our communities. So we're bringing this to you today. Certainly welcome any comments or questions. What we'd like to do is be prepared to share this out with our public and reshare it out with our staff at our February all-staff meeting and move forward with this in line with our new strategic plan.
So will you be updating this onto the webpage below the core values, or will it replace the core
It
values?
will replace our core values then. Yep.
Will this be posted in each of the branches?
Yes, that is in our plan as well. Thank you.
I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, I do too. It's worded beautifully, such as provide windows into a wider world and so on. And then your ongoing task of always looking for new and exciting ways to deliver library services. Ongoing, always thinking. You are team people. It is so obvious in every presentation and your replacement here for core values.
And I should stress that this is really pieces and viewpoints that we gathered from staff, and then our management team, especially thanks to Patrick for helping to wordsmith and pull it all together in this concise document. But I think we would all, I can speak for Paul and Patrick, that staff really had a huge say in this, definitely. And that was really important to Heidi and really important to our management team, that it was the staff speaking and bringing their voices forward, so.
So my question would be, if you walked into Dakota County or Anoka County, would we see the same thing, or what would you think would be?
Anoka didn't do anything like this. Is that where you came from, Patrick? Is that where you came from, Anoka?
Well, that's where I worked before here. I worked for Hennepin before that. I just don't remember from Hennepin.
I mean, because I guess my point is that I think there are some very positive, unique things about Carver County, and I just would hope that would pop out to people's experience for sure, but then to see that it's actually part of the promise statement.
I could see this not just as a piece of paper on the bulletin board, but as a sign, a
That's
thing.
right.
When you walk into the library, that's in front of you. And I love this, we will. We will do these things. And this is what you can expect of us when you're dealing with us. And I think that's important.
It's a mission statement.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, this is what you're going to get now.
We promise.
And if you don't get it, let us know.
They will.
Yeah.
It is to be displayed and shared. How can
So I
we
guess
do
when
that?
you display that, is it going to be like in big form? Because if you put this piece of paper, people walk by, they don't see it. But if it's in like a big placard and they see it's coming in, it's more impactful, I guess, from a user perspective.
When I was in corporate America, we had something like this in every meeting room. So you have more time to read a sign in a meeting room than just walking in, I think, too.
No, this is for, that's for when you have meetings with your team, but it's like for the customers coming in, understanding your commitment to them. It's nice to have a bigger form. If they choose to read, it's also easier to read and notice.
Hopefully our patrons are using meeting rooms too.
Right. Oh, that's true too.
Not all of them, but.
Well, I don't know that we honed in on a certain size, but we can talk about that.
They just put up email to talk with the sign shop.
Yep. The sign shop did, during the height of the pandemic especially, did a lot of large signs for us, but they might be able to do something really nice for us with this, so, yeah.
You want people like me, to be able to read it when you walk in the door.
What kind of person are you?
Pardon?
What kind of person are you?
Somebody who needs big letters.
Well, if it's on the website, that'll catch people's attention too, I don't know, if they're just getting through it.
Is there a way to measure this, a survey or something? And survey of sending out to a bunch of people or handing out?
Surveys are in kind of disrepute right now.
I'm sorry.
They,
Go ahead, Frank.
the difficulty in validating them it's always been very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's
We
even
talked about
worse.
this before,
It's
yeah.
now even worse.
Okay.
You're going to say, Patrick?
Well, I was just going to add that the promises, this is to be very, I'm sorry to be very processy, the promises inform the strategic plan. The strategic plan then under is going to have individual tasks. And those tasks, those are measurable. So like one of the tasks from the
Yeah.
collection team is gonna be X, Y, or Z, and it's gonna have to be a measurable task. People and their individual goals are supposed to have them relate back to the strategic plan. People's individual goals are measurable. So while we're not gonna have Alan, we're not gonna have a document that says, did we do these 10 things? We're gonna have other measures that this document informed. But some of them, for example, like the one, I can speak always about collection stuff. The one on collection, I think we can measure, are we good stewards? We can go back and say, last year we got, if we wanted to measure this, we could say we got 29 circulations per dollar, and this year, because we bought better, we spent our money better, we got 40 circulations per dollar. So, I think if the board is interested in us coming up with some measures, that's something we could put our heads around and figure out if there are measures that are non-intrusive and reliable that we can get. So I think that's an excellent point.
That also brings up something else. My perspective of this was looking at it from the point of view of a patron walking in the door. But it's also intended for the staff and for people like us. So we have to keep in mind that, if you're going to measure it, you have to measure from the points of view of the various populations that are using it. Glad I don't do that anymore.
And one other suggestions I would say is that to keep it fresh is that maybe every 2 years or so, you should review the promises and maybe should you wordsmith it or you want to adjust some of those because of your experience from using, from running the library with the promise intact and see, if there are nuances you need to adjust for the promises or, or maybe the promises doesn't actually, once it's great to apply it and then you realize that application wise, you gotta tweak it a bit, kind of a thing. But maybe 2 years, maybe one every year, maybe an annual process to just review that. That would be good, and it keeps you accountable for your promises that you made.
Very true.
I hate to mention this, but it kind of reminds me of the part in Citizen Kane where Kane highlights his philosophy for the newspaper as he's starting out and kind of falls by the wayside. It's not meant to
Putting
be
it
the
mildly.
same. I have a habit of
Thank
making
you,
all
Frank.
kinds of bad connections to things.
Yeah, so we have a whole, how we're gonna roll this out plan, that is, how staff's gonna hear about it, how public's gonna hear about it, and letting you hear about it as part of it, so.
So do we need to pass this or are you just telling us?
Certainly, it was more exercise we went to inform the plan, so I don't think
Right.
it's actionable.
All right, okay. Okay, so moving on, administrative reports. We already have the
So,
Jeff posted.
Can I bring up the one item we
Oh,
had?
the hybrid meeting.
Yes,
Oh,
so
that's what that's-
in the minutes, you saw that I mentioned at the last meeting that I will be unavailable for February and March.
Right,
So I know previously we had to do either all virtual or all together.
right.
So Heidi said, or Heidi, sorry.
Jody.
Jody said that
The new Heidi,
we can do with enough notice, so I'm just wondering how we get that out, if we want to do it, or I'll just miss February, March, because I think we usually have a forum.
I mean, I think I have no problem doing a hybrid meeting if you're comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I'd be,
But is
But
it,
what do we have-
from a
what's the
technology
process?
standpoint, if
Yeah.
you're at different locations, how would that be accommodated? There'll be something for you, Jody, to work with IT.
Yeah, because I apologize, I can't remember where we are in February and March, but, I mean, it's doable. I mean, I guess the other option would be to go totally virtual too during those 2 months.
But that makes it impossible we don't have very many visitors, but occasionally we have.
Right,
So, and that makes it impossible for them to appear.
so I'll make the hybrid happen if we need to go that route.
How does the hybrid work? We're sitting around the table here talking, Now, if we're hybrid, that means that some of us are not at the table here.
Right.
How does that work?
It depends upon where you are in the setup. I mean, like in Chanhassen, you.
Well, we've done some collection team meetings, and about 4 of us sit around the Longfellow boardroom, and we have a laptop out that has a camera and a speaker on it, and we project it up on the TV.
Okay.
And so some people talk, and it works out. You know, it took them a while to figure it out, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think we have it down now. So
Yeah.
as long as you're at a location that has Wi-Fi,
Yep.
it can happen. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't have Wi-Fi, I have Teams on my
Yeah.
phone, and we put my phone in the middle, and
Right. I mean, is there conference room, like this conference room has the video cam that will dynamically figure out who's talking and then points to you, and then, then we have a camera that.
I don't think we have that at any of our branches yet.
No, but
Well, and another option is if I'm the only one not available in Carver County, couldn't you just call me?
Right, we could, and then just do a FaceTime.
Right, or just even
Or just
listen in and
speakerphone,
if you
but-
need, if you don't have a quorum or something, but yeah.
Speakerphone
I just wanted
is
to say,
bad.
I can be available, but I will
No,
not
we
be in
would-
Carver County.
We would like you to come, well, I would like you to come, so.
Okay.
I think that you might actually need a motion because you're changing the.
Yes, I
Yep.
think we do need
Yeah.
a motion, I think that was
Think so
in the
too.
minutes that we were gonna revisit this.
because
I
we'll
remember
want to
reading
make
it.
sure to get out the notice that it is hybrid.
Yeah, I know
within
there's just
enough
some
time.
technicalities with the county.
So all in favor of considering
Did you need a
for,
motion first?
yes,
Okay.
Can
Somebody
I have
else
a
make a
motion?
motion. 'cause-
I move we have hybrid meetings
for the next two.
for the next 2.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
And all in favor say,
Aye.
Aye.
so done.
Thank you.
Oh, anything.
I promise not to be by the pool.
Just don't make us feel bad when we're cold and we're snowing and you're like, oh, it's 80 degrees here.
No palm trees either. Okay.
Okay, to administrative reports, any more other business? I was just gonna say, I was expecting to see you in a leopard jacket.
Oh,
I was trying to figure
left that
out when
one
am I
at
gonna
home.
tell her that, like. I saw the thing of like, is that Jody?
hey, speaking of a little social media blurb we did here, we filmed at Victoria, so to help promote the Spice program, so a la Spice Girls. So there was a leopard print jacket
print jacket.
involved.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yes, yes.
I don't know if you like it, but I did like it. So administrative reports, budget.
Yes, so just a few comments on the budget. Right now, we're heading into really a time period where we truly are working across 3 budgets. We're wrapping up 2022, and I'll speak to that a little bit. And then the county board just approved the 2023 budget, which we're just starting to look at now. And then we're also starting to plug in a plan for 2024 budget. So there's a lot of moving pieces happening all at the same time, and I know Heidi had always spoken to that as well. As for 2022, the final budget really will not be settled until March.
Okay.
Because of several things. One of the big pieces is always the credit card backup and that comes from county finance. It just takes a long time for them to work through that whole piece across the county. It's not just because of the library, obviously. So it will take some time to reconcile the credit card expenses. I know I talked last time about some of the prepays for especially some of our technology subscriptions that fall across a couple of years. And so those have to get adjusted. And then there's other journal entries too at times where we may need to move some funds from one area to another. So there's just a lot of moving pieces for us to reconcile and to make sure all come together. So in the next 2 months, we'll be working with our accountant, Diane Rugland from the county, to work through those pieces. Susan Blatz, our admin assistant, does a lot of the journal entries and shifting if we need to. And if there's any rollovers, that's also a very formal process that we have to go through and certain stipulations that we have to follow to be able to do that as well.
So I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
Trying to wear a different hat here. So the numbers for selected month is till end of December of 2022. Are all your revenue costs and expenditure mostly covered, or is it only mainly the credit card that's? Well, the only thing I'm asking is that salary has a decent variance.
So there's still one more pay period that has to hit
Okay.
for salaries. I know that. And then, of course, we've had some vacancies too, so that probably accounts for some of that as well.
Right.
So that there's a couple different pieces there.
And then my only other question is, do you have a severance allowance here? That was not budgeted, but there's a number of 34K. I was just curious, did you apply that?
That one, oh, sorry, I have to look at the right line here.
It's in the first page.
Yeah, that one I'd have to go back probably to our accountant, because that's so much handled by county finance, some
Okay.
of those line items.
I was surprised to see a
Yep.
severance.
Yeah.
So that did you have to terminate someone?
So,
It was there for cost, and I'm not sure if it's recorded, and we want to say any names here, but just curious, that's all.
no, I don't think, I mean, I think that's just something they account for there, yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yep. Other questions?
I had a question on your circulation data. Now,
Sure.
is this, I got kind of confused when I was reading it. Does this include the total year somewhere?
Yeah, it is, right.
That 77?
Up
No,
here.
I'm looking at the
Oh,
circulation
yes,
number.
that one.
We wouldn't be at total year yet
Okay.
here. No.
Because,
Mm-mm.
well, it says December on the top.
It looks like it's total year. I think she's just saying that there's still accrual entries to do, or entries to do like for credit cards and things like that.
And even with circulation, the final numbers wouldn't have
Okay.
been run yet by this point. We're just starting to pull those now, because we'll be preparing for the state report.
Okay.
That will be due in March, and then also we are working on the annual report.
That was my next question. It's
Yeah.
like, I couldn't remember when they came out and stuff, so, okay.
I'm fairly confident we'll have annual reports in your hands at the February, or in the mail, at the February meeting, so you can read it poolside, so.
Okay. Great.
I was
Ellen,
curious
I
when
just-
you mentioned,
sorry.
I'm sorry,
No,
go
you're
ahead,
fine.
finish.
I was just gonna say any predictions on what it's gonna be. I know we had a million one year and we were very excited, and then the pandemic hit. and I don't know.
We're going to be close.
We're gonna be close. I mean, we're working, because we have one of our tech associates who pulls a lot of the numbers, and it's looking like we're over 1 million, but I don't want to be totally solid on that. Patrick, I don't know if you want to.
No, the numbers, I think one of the reasons, there's something that's just not looking right in some of the numbers that were sent, so I asked Catherine to go back and take a look at it.
Okay.
But if we go over 1 million, I can tell you it's gonna be because our digital
Right.
has increased by 25% over last year, which is like over 25% from the year before.
Okay. Well,
So stay
people
tuned.
reading.
I was just curious about the vacancies you mentioned. What are they, and how important are they?
So, well, right now, we've got 4 job postings posted that we'll begin recruiting for. And those include 2 shelvers for Chan and Victoria, one of which is the operations supervisor out in the western branches. So that hasn't been vacant for very long, but
Correct, her last day was January 3rd, so it won't be reflected in the salaries that you see for 2022, but it'll, I mean, I'm planning for myself, because I do pick up on the work, most of that work is that, you know, I don't think we'll have it filled much before the end of February. By the time we interview people, and that person needs to give their current employer notice. And so we've worked through the requisition and recruitment as quickly as we can.
Covered.
And then we still have 2 vacancies at Chaska and administration. Actually more than that, but one is an associate librarian position, part-time, that just went up as well on the posting. But then we have a full-time librarian that would be our main cataloger for the system, and that's an important piece. So that has been vacant now for a couple of months. So we've been, a lot of staff have been jumping in to help cover some of those tasks and projects in the meantime. So we're anxious to get that one filled. So I feel like I'm forgetting something else, but we have and our community engagement coordinator position is still vacant as well in administration. So, but that will likely not be filled until a new director is officially hired, so.
Is this more than usual? Or such as a sign of our times where people are changing jobs, or is this pretty much the way things go? And
I feel like a fair amount hit right now in terms of vacancies. I mean, we see turnover in our part-time positions, a fair amount, but I would say right now to have had this many like full-time positions or close to full-time positions open, it's a lot all at once. That
Are you getting applicants coming in though? Or do you get any people sending in some applications, and do you get decent ones?
Yeah,
Or do they need to go train for resume prep?
We'll see. We don't know about these current postings because they won't close for a couple weeks, and then we'll know more when we see that. So it will be very interesting. It's definitely a lot of things. Across the MELSA system, there's a lot of openings, especially in some of the upper management and director positions as well.
oh,
So
that too.
yep. So interesting time. Good questions. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else?
Are we at the budget, or are we at the
Can I
director's
just-
report?
I'll just add a quick update that I did take part in 4 or 5 interviews, I'm trying to remember, the week before Christmas, a panel with Nick and the employer relations person. And Nick communicated with me yesterday and said that, well, one had dropped out or got a different job, and so they're going to kind of reboot and sort of probably look for a new, fresh batch of candidates. So that's probably going to be at least another month or so.
Which position?
For the
Heidi's
director position.
But did you put are you still in the bag, or were you not applying for it?
I think that's confidential.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, that's all right. So, but they're gonna plan to review and repost in a few weeks, and yep, like Gwen said, give it a reboot. So,
Okay.
yep.
So that's the budget. And was that the director's report that we just did? Or we're doing the director's
Not exactly,
report?
but we kind of
Yeah,
morphed into that.
like
I'll just
straight over.
add a couple things from the director's report if that's quick, or if that's all right. We are, another big project that we're getting ready to launch, hopefully in February, is the SMS text messaging and auto renewal. So it's just taking a little more time on the tech side of things with IT and some of the contract pieces and setting it up with our ILS system. But we're hopeful that by February, we'll get communication out to our patrons and communities and be ready to roll with both of those pieces, so.
Yeah, the only question I had with that is that would the patron have to give approval for that?
Yes, for the SMS text messaging.
So you'd be like, when they borrow the book, then you say, hey, by the way, we have this,
Yep,
that kind of
exactly.
thing.
Yep, you'll have to, patrons will have to opt in. That's just part of the, I think, legality behind,
Right.
with that, so certainly.
But do we not already have something like that in place, or this is the first time you're doing it?
So we have.
We have email.
Email
Right.
notifications, which you can opt in for, and telephone notifications. So this will be a third option then.
Okay.
And that, yep, exactly.
Will it be either all or all three? They can choose for all three.
Well, you can only do one, and you have to choose which of the three you want.
Yep.
Method of communication you want to get.
Right,
Okay,
right.
okay, got it.
Otherwise, I think the director's report stands as enclosed.
Yeah.
Certainly, but I welcome any questions you might have, so.
Y'all were closed for last week. Were you closed last weekend on Wednesday? When there was inclement weather or?
No,
bad
I was trying to think, the Wednesday and Thursday prior to the Christmas holiday,
Right.
we closed early. And then Friday, Norwood and Watertown, that day closed for the whole day. And then last week, we didn't close at all.
Right.
I'm just trying to, it's quite a process to
Shut it down.
go through
And
that,
when-
yeah, and
yeah.
we ultimately work with Nick Octavi and the county administration to determine, the outcome of that, so. But we were very grateful, I think staff were very grateful on the days that we did close early to be able to, on those, because that first storm,
That was
the
pretty bad.
temperatures were so,
It was dangerous.
so
Yeah.
dangerous,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yep. And thanks to Paul and Patrick, because they really weighed in just on their staff status and where we were at with things in order for me to convey that to.
So out of
Yeah.
curiosity, like what's the process like when you had to close early and then take the day off the next, shut the next day, right? The one prior to Christmas, like what's the process just for my education?
In terms of like the communication
Yeah, the
process?
logistics.
So, I mean, essentially, we have internal conversations with the branch managers, to put in a request to the county that we feel, or a recommendation that we feel we should potentially close early. And then, I have that conversation as the director with Nick. And once they've come to a decision, and he's talking with emergency management staff, looking at National Weather Service reports,
Right.
those sorts of things. And looking obviously at area closures in general, if there's schools closed, other organizations. We try to, if we do close early, we try to align with the government center hours, so that's why 4:30 seems to be kind of the target there.
Okay.
And once we know that, then, then we work with Susan Bernstein, the librarian who does our social media, our website, updates, and try to get that information out as best we can. Staff, put up signs, and we let, patrons know.
Okay.
So, yeah, and we move as quickly as we can then.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I was curious, what's your, general procedure? I'm sure that you guys have to look at what the weather report and, because like school closures, well, at the time school was already closed, so
Right.
it's a big deal.
And I should add, we do look at MELSA system too, and it was very unprecedented because even, Hennepin was closing early. I mean, just some library systems that rarely do, so we were taking a look at that as well. Yep.
Yeah, because my wife helps out in another school district, but I think Carver didn't close. Carver's still at school, isn't that right? For that Wednesday last week? And then, but a different school district, Hopkins School District closed.
Okay.
So it was interesting. That was it, and then we're going to trustee and commissioners report, so you do the Chanhassen, Victoria.
Okay, so if you want to just pull out the report, I want to point out a couple things. Halfway through the pack, very colorful. We're going to have 4 things today, because we're doing 2 months' worth. In the December report are pictures of our author visits. We had 3 author visits in person, so it's nice to have people back. On page 2 and 3 are pictures of the authors, Allison, Danny, and Beth, and they all were just wonderful to work with. Then if you pick over to the January report, One of the things I want to point out here is that the Victoria Friends have a big book sale. This is new for them to be doing book sales. This is only their second. And so they were real excited about it. We had an okay turnout, not as nice as we would have thought or liked, but doing it in December is real, we thought we'd get people coming in looking for gifts, and that really didn't happen. The next page, on page 2, is a new PlayStation given by the Friends of the Chanhassen Library. So I just want to point out things that the Friends had something to do with. It is amazingly not destroyed yet. I really don't know how that has happened. We had donated to us a puppet stage that lasted a day and a half. And then finally, on the last page is our New Year's Day, and I know you're going to see these in Paul's report as well. We did ours on Friday, and there is the confetti, also known as the Canadian Cruise Nightmare.
Yeah. Sorry.
So that's what I have. Thank you for your time.
Did Chaska cancel theirs, didn't it?
Yes, because we were short-staffed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been challenging, so, yes. But we had some passive activities out, so, yeah.
Yeah, because I saw the schedule, so I knew there was something happening, but then there was this lady that I go to the gym and she said, yeah, I was going to see my daughter then, they canceled. I'm like, really? So obviously, there was you're going to get a patron going there, but you're like, bummed. Next one, Chaska.
Sure. So just a couple highlights from Chaska that I will mention. We had a Friends book sale as well in December adjacent to the downtown hometown holiday. And they had a very nice, successful event. Went really well. We had some live music that day as well. And they handed out some treats and coffee. So great event, very nice community event. This is really more system-wide, but I'll share that because we had a collaborative coloring event or program in all of our branches that was sponsored by the Carver County Arts Committee. So you can see all the different murals from each of our branches that were colored by families of all ages. And they are now hanging in the government center. So really fun to see that kind of collaborative event happen. And thinking about Jeff talking earlier about the puzzles, the paper puzzles, one of the things that, and it just seems silly and fun, but we have adopted a gnome at Chaska Library, and we hide him in different places to help families and adults get to know different parts of our collection. And again, seems like a really silly thing, but it's so engaging for families. And our Nomi turns 1, so we've been celebrating his birthday. So staff, it's just been really fun for staff too. I think a really good kind of fun team building activity. So, but great way to kind of engage patrons too, especially in these cold winter months. So just some highlights from Chaska, thank you.
Did you give it a name?
We just call him Nomi.
Nomi, that
Very,
works.
very original. And actually, I think he was living at Victoria when I was here in Victoria, and they sent him in delivery at one point. He showed up in Chaska. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, the murals are really nice.
Speaking of Chaska, the city council, not this last meeting, it was just last night, but one about a few weeks ago, the tax levy came up during the discussion. Matt, the city manager, was talking about sharing the levy. It's going up quite a bit in the next 5 years. And 4 of the projects have to do with complete renovation, adding a boatload of space. Fire department, police department, city hall, and the municipal storage where all of the huge machines are. And when he was sharing this with community members, Matt said, and of course some people said, don't forget the library. And he especially liked the remarks about it because our library is the only one where we have to have acquisition of property in a completely new building. This will be, the projection is $19 million for a new library in Chaska, and opening hopefully in the fall of 2027. You probably know all about this and all,
No,
many
but
more.
thank you for bringing it. Yes, absolutely.
Is the 19 million include acquisition of land, or is just the building only?
I believe that's the total, because they looked at it as a project, and they also told the amount for the fire department, police department, and so on.
So last I've heard, I don't think we got all the land yet, have we? I don't think we have all the land for the library yet, I thought. Oh, no, they're gonna they initially were gonna re-provision the motor vehicle area, branch area, right?
The
Okay,
school, they were gonna take over the school garage.
Oh,
When the school levy passed to build a new garage, and that levy failed.
Right.
So that was in the Plan A.
so where is it going to be now, are you aware?
Right across from where we are on 4th and Pine.
Where the
next to
motor
the
vehicle-
license center.
The
Mhm.
license, so,
Mhm.
because I thought at one time they're gonna tear that down and put it right over it, right? Okay. So have they bought all the lands yet?
that I cannot say.
No, I don't know if they have or not, yeah.
Because I know they
So-
bought around it, but then they say, oh no, not gonna do it, so we bought the land around it, but not on the motor vehicle branch itself, so. The licensing branch itself, so I was kinda curious. So what's chloride display, what was that about?
That's a display from the Carver County Water Management, and it's something that we're rotating in several of our branches, and it speaks to how much, the amount of salt that's ecologically friendly to our environment that we should be using, like the amount, kind of some education behind it. Yep. So you'll find that we had it in Chaska, it is now over at the Laconia branch. So it's making its way around.
Yeah, because the water in Carver is pretty hard, right? So I use water softener that uses salt. They're saying, I need to go figure out what that is. Paul,
Good afternoon. Quite a lot going on. I'm trying to make it quick here. Mentioned in the report, I believe, about wrapping up some of our furnishings projects. And this week we had in the children's area, we have some, and they're very nice, wooden chairs that have metal legs. And I'm in my office doing some work and staff come running back to get me. You need to come out. Is one of the chairs fell apart and it was an adult sitting in one of the kids' chairs, right, which is just, I mean, this is an ongoing challenge. And so we've assessed where these chairs, how they're built, and where some of the splicing together of the metalwork,
the joints.
yeah, and at any rate, we've got quite a few chairs that are vulnerable. Point being that no sooner, well, fortunately, the mother who was sitting in the chair, she was fine, and the baby who was next to her was fine. So that's the important part of it. But no sooner do we think that we're done with some of the furnishings projects, and we're back to the drawing board. And and the point being really is that even though we think of the Waconia building and Norwood, Young America, and Watertown as being new buildings, as they are 8, 10, 15 years old, and things like this are bound to happen. So we'll continue to be working on that, some of those projects. Jeff mentioned, and I appreciate that the Dolke grant for the Next Chapter Book Club, which was late in getting going this year for some scheduling reasons, but it's coming together very nicely. So certainly kudos to Bridget Stewart, the staff who had put that proposal together. We had they had the first session at the Watertown branch this past week, and there were 7 attendees, and we're partnering with just had a brain cramp on the name of the agency for which developmentally disabled
Right.
adults work with and they come through. So this has all the earmarks of being a very good collaboration with that agency, as well as an opportunity for us to be doing some intentional programming with a population that we don't typically serve.
So there are 7 attendees?
Some attendees.
So
And
will
that's
they
real-
provide assistance to come there, or how?
Yeah,
does
they
it-
had staff that come with them, and then we
Uh-huh.
have 2 of our own staff. The Next Chapter Book Club is a model developed by an agency for which we are now a member, and there are some requirements on our part about staffing and frequency of meetings and things like that. Plus, they provide some literature and other training, the training materials are absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I was
that
curious,
we
do
receive.
you all need, before you all do the reading with them, or because they have someone coming, do you need to have special training to accommodate or handle
Yep,
them?
and we had training on the program itself, that's correct. So we'll keep you posted on how that's going, but it's certainly off to a good start. The youth services team has been working, as I mentioned in the report, on summer reading program, and we're actively pursuing the performers and getting some of the bigger pieces put in place, and it'll be here before we know it, in spite of what we think of the weather as being outside today. And I appreciate your comments, Frank, about the surveys, and not to debate that, but just as a kind of a counterpoint is the Waconia branch is one of several of our branches that are participating in an initiative of Carver County Public Health called Communities of Belonging, and I've mentioned this in reports. And right now, the Waconia branch, through that initiative, is a distribution point for their survey, community survey, which will primarily, the hope is it'll be done online, and the people take the survey online. But as we do with any of our online things, is we also offer people who are not online paper alternatives. So we have that available for people to take, but also that we have public access computers for people to come in and use. So we're glad to be an active part of that community initiative. And as I mentioned, we have kind of a special dynamic in the western branches with a couple of our chambers of commerce, and through that I've gotten to know the publisher, not on a deep level, but just a casual working relationship with the publisher from Waconia Living magazine. Last week she calls and says, "Hey Paul, you want to talk for a minute?" And long story short version is it appears as though we will likely be, the library will be the cover feature story for their February issue. And so a photographer was over yesterday. We invited Jody to come over and join us as well. So we had some of the staff as a staff picture, but the important thing, that was a lot of fun, and it is fun. But the important part of this is that we'll be able to feature the services of the Carver County Library in general. They're going to be looking at it through the lens of the Waconia branch, but also the programming and other things that we've got going. So, and again, it just points to where we're very fortunate with these, being able to be an active member in the chambers of commerce in these communities. And it's just that sweet spot of we're big enough to be able to do things, small enough to have these great contacts with community leaders and community resources like a local magazine. So that's what I got.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see, I wonder if I have a question here. I got a kick out of your title. Tentatively, you said that for the month of February is Library Lovers Month.
Yes. Yep. And that is, it's one of those, go to one of those websites that has day of the, today's Dog Lovers Day or whatever. So there is a National Library Lovers Month in February, and that will be the feature in this magazine. That was the springboard for the publisher for how to call this to begin with. Fun stuff.
Well, it's tantalizing.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
I loved your Target. A Target story, standing in line.
Oh,
Oh my goodness, that was heartwarming.
yeah. Yeah, it really was. Yeah, just standing in line, not at all thinking about work. and it was fun, you know, and I think I would point that as much as we had several pictures there and the newspaper gave us great coverage, is it's just an example of what happens all year long with the creative programming that comes out of the youth services team. I think this one actually first started at the Victoria branch, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And that's how frequently we'll do things with the teams, is we'll roll it out in one branch, put a toe in the water, if you will, on doing something, see how it goes. And then as there's opportunity to roll it out other branches. Great teamwork throughout the system.
Lots of fun. Maybe expanding to a noon New Year's Eve for seniors.
Right, and yeah, a partner with the senior center next door in City Hall.
You just need to remind him.
They can clean up the
11
glitter
months
over
from
there
now.
then. We had glitter out on the sidewalk, oh my
That
gosh.
would be a
the
good
cleaning
agility
service is just
exercise for seniors.
gonna-
Oh, thank you, Paul.
Well, lastly, we have Alan, do you have any updates?
Sure, just for you, Charles. I have a little something about Stiff Tune Fest. I know you're really hyped up about that. The Friends of the Library made some money and has a cash, and decided to get involved in the annual extravaganza in Norwood Young America, which is held at the Pavilion. And it's a Christmas thing, and this year there was a contest where the library participated, the Friends of the Library participated in coming up with a theme, a movie theme, Elf, and I don't really know who won it, but it was, well presented, and as I watched people with their sheets, trying to come up with the answers, it was well participated in. And Santa Claus was there, and there was food. So that's the nut and bolts about my Friends of the Library, but I've started a chess club. And I call it the last Thursday of the month, last Thursday chess. And I've got a handful of people who are already ready to participate. And my objective is to have a chess tournament at Stiff Tune Fest, Charlie. So, and the foundation, treasure, everything's really come together. We had a meeting in December, but didn't meet a quorum, but we got a lot of business done. And it's moving forward. There's sort of a collective atmosphere. Everybody's sort of putting in their time and doing what needs to be done. So it's moving forward.
The Library Foundation, are you referring to?
The Library Foundation is gifts that are received from the community. It's different, it's separated from like the budget income we have here, where there's salary and government funds that are paying salaries. This comes from people of the community that give monetary gifts.
Yeah, we're talking about
I'm sorry?
where you were the liaison at Library Foundation.
I've been promoted to treasurer.
That's what I thought. I saw it in our last meetings before. And we all received, invitation to send in our donation. And you've already added it up then?
Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, has it already been, let's see, the invitation to donate, usually comes out in, I thought it came out in December, maybe right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think it's
I
been
got
out.
one. Did you get one?
I think Paul was interested, did that. Didn't you do that, Paul? No, okay. Anyway, it's been out, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but it hasn't been added up
Yeah,
to
it's
see
been
what
added up.
what we made, because I've seen brochures in the, before that came out even a brochure that, I don't know why it was produced, but the first year I was on the board, I received one of them, and it listed all the donors, maybe not all of them, but, and the totals. So we knew from year to year.
So
How
I'm not
much?
quite sure what you're asking.
Okay.
Maybe I
For
can have-
2022, has it been added up so that we know the donations that came in from that letter?
I think it's sort of privy, it's sort of confidential, so, you know, unless you're sort of, I'm just guessing here, but I don't think you're privy to it. I'm not trying to be,
Oh, no.
Well, I wouldn't imagine by name unless people opted to have their name published.
yeah.
I know what
Yeah,
Jan's
with my-
talking about, though.
Yeah,
Several
I
years
saw
ago, there was a
Keith
brochure
and
that,
Mary's name. in it.
and it
the
didn't
big-
give the amount, but just said thank you to the donors of the
Yes,
foundation.
Okay.
yes.
And it was an acknowledgement.
But I think
Yeah, I
that
haven't
was the
seen that
last
for-
year.
Yeah.
They haven't.
And I don't know that it's all been compiled, like all of that from 2022.
Yeah,
Just
that's
because
my
there was
question.
a shift in leadership for the whole foundation board in between when Heidi retired
Mm-hmm.
and when I stepped in as interim, so they're kind of, and then we just had a meeting with the accountant that they work with, so I know she hasn't pulled all of those numbers together yet, and I think Susan Blatz was still kind of watching to see with that end of the year ask if there was more coming in as well. So I don't know if that helps answer, but
Well, I'm expecting it to be very big. That's what I'm thinking. Libraries are near and dear to people's hearts. And
Well, the Chanhassen Friends holiday letter, we got over 4,000.
And someone spent $3,956
Yes.
on it.
Patrick was right there. And we'll still get more in.
But thank you for your donation.
Oh, no, I'm not even saying that at all.
Seriously. I mean,
No,
seriously.
that was, my question
I
is
know,
that
but seriously, thank you for your donation.
this is,
Thanks, Alan. You know what, I'm just gonna ask a question.
That
So
was their
technically,
point.
do you have any questions do you wanna ask?
No, I don't think so.
I just realized that you were like completely silent and
No,
I
that's
didn't
okay.
ask you about.
I didn't really have any, I'm sorry I was late. I told Jay, I got lost terribly. I texted you and I felt bad, but my maps was not working and it was sending me to different locations that was not here. So I got sent to a few restaurants and finally I just walked into one of them and it was a bar and they tried carding me. They were like, are you 21? I was like, I'm not trying, I just need to know where I'm going. And then I was trying to explain, like, I'm going to a library meeting, and they're like, we don't do book clubs here. Just really fun. And then it
That's a
sent me
good
to
one.
the ice rink, the recreation center, and I was like, I do not think we're meeting here. I don't know why, but I think it was glitching, but I figured it out. So.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, but I showed up. And so I
That's a
felt
nice,
bad I was
that's a
late.
nice story.
See,
That's
this
a good
is young
story.
people with technology.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know, I'm
Old
supposed to
timers
be
use
good at
maps.
I know,
So,
see, I should have done
Can I
that.
have a move to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
no book clubs here.